So I was selected to be press at Toronto International Film Festival, and it took me this long to do my first video review from the festival. But let's get into this. We're going to be covering The Smashing Machine, which is Benny Safdie's solo debut for a feature-length film. I absolutely love Benny Safdie's solo work aside from his brother with The Curse, which might be my favorite thing ever from the past decade. A lot of people have their eyes on this movie because it's The Rock stab, Dwayne The Rock Johnson's attempt at getting an Oscar. But it doesn't feel like Oscar bait. This is an atypical presentation for the story that they're going for. And I do feel like this subverts a lot of my expectations from, say, an Oscar bait movie. In many ways, it almost does that to a fault. But talking about that Rock performance, I think he does a good job in playing against his type. This is a character who is vulnerable. Like, it seems like The Rock's contracts say that he can't be a vulnerable character. He kind of plays The Rock in every movie, but this isn't him just playing The Rock. This is a completely different interpretation of what I would expect from one of his characters. Of course, Mark Kerr is a real person, and this is based off of a documentary by the same name, The Smashing Machine, which is about Mark Kerr's rise in the early days of the MMA. And like many good sports drama movies, this isn't just about the sport. Think of it like a Raging Bull, where the sport is a backdrop, but at the heart of this, it's a character drama. I also hand a lot to the makeup and hairstyling, where we have some really transformative appearances of The Rock playing Mark Kerr, where you really have to squint and think about it to be like, oh shit, that's The Rock. I also like The Rock's change in his voice, where he has a lot softer voice for this portrayal of Mark Kerr. I also thought Emily Blunt did a good job. They have great chemistry together, her and The Rock. They've been in other movies together. And I like her character's demeanor, trying to make this relationship work as this character goes through these ups and downs. What I love is that the surrounding cast are all non-actors. That's something that Benny Safdie and his brother are great at doing, casting these non-actors, which give authentic roles. And this is a very authentic feeling movie. Another way that helped with this almost naturalistic feel is the film that it's shot on. It's shot on 16 millimeter. For the most part, there's a lot of different uses of different camera and film stock. I won't spoil any of that, but the main base of this 16 millimeter film looks gorgeous, and it's not shot in a very typical way. It gives me feelings of some of the early Safdie brothers works, the ones in the realm of the mumblecore. So I do like that because I am a sucker for mumblecore. My favorite thing about the movie is actually the score. It's composed by somebody who was supposed to compose the score of The Curse. She does a phenomenal job with a very ethereal sounding score, which aids to the feeling of this sober fever dream is the best way I could describe the whole experience. I also love the licensed music they used. However, there is one moment on how they use licensed music in a particular important scene where it felt a bit too intrusive. I was like, okay, we could have kind of cut the music there, but you kept adding it. But a lot of times the music is diegetic within the world of the film, and I thought that was very impressive in how that was incorporated. Unfortunately, my main problem with this movie is that it just kind of ends. It feels like they're building up to something very dramatic, something that will give a payoff to the viewer, but I don't feel like I ever got that payoff. It just is like, oh, wait, that's it? The film is over? I thought there would be a little bit more. I was hoping for something a little bit more interesting in the third act for the payoff of this character drama. But this really does stick to the story. It doesn't try to dramatize things too hard. And on one hand, I respect that, but on the other hand, it makes me less inclined to experience something where it feels like it's building up to something in the third act that just is never delivered. So that was a letdown. Another smaller problem would just be that I think like some of the sound effects are a little bit weird. I mean, I had the same problem for Raging Bull, which is an amazing movie, and I do think that's a better movie, where I'm like, okay, that sounds a little bit too weird for those punching sounds, but that's like a major nitpick. I also do feel like this is a very familiar movie in ways, which, yeah, it's somebody's life or a specific segment of somebody's life. And as much as we'd like to hope that everybody's life is distinct, a lot of times we go through the same experiences as other people. And that's probably what I felt was missing, was just something to distinguish this a little bit more in its story as a whole. In many ways, I was left wanting to watch The Wrestler more, which I feel does a very similar story, but just takes up a notch to more unexpected areas and just more interesting character drama. So yeah, I still think this is a great movie. I mean, it's one of the better movies of the year, and I'd give it a high 7. I like the technicals a lot. I was impressed by the performances, even if they're not my favorites of the year. I just wish there was something a little bit more to it. So if all things considered, like I said, a high 7 is where I'm landing at. Let me know if you've seen the Smashing Machine early and what's your favorite Safdie Brothers movie. My favorite Safdie Brothers project would just be Benny Safdie's The Curse, which he did with Nathan Fielder, and that's like my favorite thing from this decade. But if we're doing a movie from them, I love Good Time. Good Time's amazing. I love Uncut Gems too. I love The Pleasure of Being Robbed. That's a really good one. I love Daddy Longlegs, but yeah, Good Time's the best one. I hope the brothers reunite sometime. We'll have to see how Marty Supreme is, but yeah, subscribe here for more early movie reviews and honest movie takes, and check out my letterbox, which is just too good. I'll see you later. Peace out.